Thanks to Remarkable for sponsoring today's video. All right, so I'm gonna be real with you guys. Organization, not exactly my strong suit. But out of all of the things I've tried, I think the Remarkable has had the most impact. Now, there's a new Remarkable Paper Pro that adds some great elements that takes this literal digital notebook to a very different level. Firstly, if you aren't familiar with the Remarkable tablets, you're essentially looking at a digital version of the everyday notebooks you and I are very familiar with, but in a much more compact design. So it's a tablet, but it doesn't have any apps or anything else that might distract you from the reason you pick it up. It's literally a digital notebook and its primary function is just that. But it does give you access to an insane amount of tools that make it much more than just like your typical notebook. And with a name like Paper Pro, you kind of expect that. Now, the sides are ridged, making it easier to grip, but it also gives off this look of stacked paper. That level of attention to detail, I could appreciate. Now, of course, they keep it pretty simple. There's just a power button up top and a USB-C port on the bottom. It has an 11.8-inch display, which is an increase compared to the previous model, which was 10.3 inches. And this is just slightly smaller than your typical 8x11, but this is a digital screen we're talking about. So you can scroll down, or even scroll to the right. So you get a little bit more real estate than it looks like. And if you wanna see everything that you've got written down, you can just go ahead and zoom out. So you get a little bit more real estate than what you initially see. And that flexibility right there is why I fell in love with Remarkable tablets. And I'm not just talking about the extra writing space. In this little body, you have what feels like an unlimited amount of notebooks and even unlimited amount of pages within them. Now, I personally use this to keep track of things I need to do. So my to-do list notebook is my most frequently used one, but I also like to brainstorm ideas, whether that's alone or when I'm discussing some ideas with the team, to even planning out the position of like cameras or people on a set that we're trying to create. And this being able to create a bunch of different notebooks is cool, but I really like that there are included templates so that you can use those notebooks in different ways. So my to-do list uses a checklist template, and I do sketches obviously like on a blank screen. And if we're trying to map out scenes in a video, we can even use the storyboard templates to flesh it all out. All these talking points out too.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable.
Yeah. There's seriously a ton in here and I haven't used them all, but if you're a hardcore note taker or even like a musician, I think there are a ton of different options in here to match what most people would be looking for when they're trying to write something down. But let's talk about a couple of the upgrades that the Paper Pro brought to the table and how it's felt for me to use them coming as a longtime owner of the Remarkable 2. Now, firstly, is the new writing experience. I'm not sure how they did it, and writing on this feels more like writing on paper than the previous version, and I thought that was pretty good. Now, I'm personally not too crazy about writing on tablets because it always feels like I'm just using a stylus on a screen. And while some companies have made like improvements to the tablet writing experience, I don't think any of that comes close to how it feels to write on the Paper Pro. Listen to this. It sounds perfect. So definitely shout out to the Remarkable team because they kind of killed this. Now, if you pick this up, you get a marker included, which is basically your pen, pencil, highlighter, whatever you decide to write with at the moment. But you can opt for the Marker Plus, which has like a different texture finish. Most importantly, it has this built-in eraser at the top, which I think is kind of a must. Being able to just go in and erase anything that you're doing this easily, for me, it's worth the 50 bucks. Now, you thought I was playing, but you really can use a pen, pencil, highlighter. There are a ton of different writing tools that you could use within this. Not to mention, it comes with what Remarkable is calling their canvas color display, which basically means you can write with different colors now. And this was a very highly requested feature in the Remarkable community. Obviously, one of the first things that you think about with the colors being implemented is using them for highlighters. And it works just as well as you'd expect. But what's nice is that you can actually mix the colors by just layering them on top of each other. So if you want to make a certain combo, like let's say I do this for yellow, and we want to throw some blue on top of it, and like you can see, this is what our little yellow and green has evolved into, and that's just regular green down there. So you got a lot of combo options if you're like really serious about note taking. I would have loved that for textbook PDFs that I used to make in college. Don't judge me, all right? Now, one thing that you can't do with your typical notebook that the Remarkable Paper Pro introduced is being able to write at night. So the Paper Pro has this built-in reading light. Thanks to its backlit display, you can just go into the menu and you can select how much light you want it to have. I love that right there. It makes it easy to see everything in the dark, which is great if you like to, I don't know, journal in bed at night, but you don't want to wake up your partner by having the lights on. I personally found it really useful when working on like a red-eye flight back home, and I try not to be that guy who turns on the overhead light in case it'll disturb anyone. So having this built into it is so clutch. Now, there are different levels of brightness like I mentioned, and you don't exactly need it to be cranked up to the max when you're using it at night. You definitely don't want to eat up your battery with that. Now, one of the features that's pretty new to me is the companion app that you can have on your computer or smartphone. It automatically syncs what you've written down in your Remarkable, and it makes it accessible on other devices. So if you can't pull this out for whatever reason, you can still access everything and even save and send them as like PDF files if you want to share your ideas or your notes. And I've been loving this because after getting all of my thoughts out and figuring out how I want to proceed with an idea or a task, or even figuring out my whole day, I can just pull it up on my computer and get to executing. And that's what this is all about, right? Getting you in the right mindset to do a certain task or figure something out, and then boom, you execute on that time of focus you had and bring those ideas to life. Now, I'm someone who gets distracted way more than I care to admit, which is why I always like the idea of notebooks. Not to mention, they also say it's easier to remember things when you write it down. So, I've been using this to try and stay on task and, keep track of the things going on in my life. And I gotta say, I've really been enjoying the experience. The Paper Pro is absolutely a solid upgrade compared to the Remarkable 2, but the Remarkable 2 is still available since this is, a very premium product. If you don't have the budget for it, the Remarkable 2 is still an option, which gives you a lot of those same aspects and features on the notebook side of things, just, without some of the new upgrades. But of course, this guy, definitely the one I'll be carrying for the foreseeable future. And if you guys want to get your hands on it, I'll have links down below, but I'll catch you guys in the next one. Till then, I'm gonna write my autobiography in here, Jay. Are you gonna read it, man?
No. Basically live with you. I know what you're doing every day, so I don't need to read it.
Touche.
Yeah.